Okay, we'll open the meeting. Here comes young Dirk. We'll start with the recording and publishing in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993. Cowra Council is recording this meeting and will upload the recording to Council's website. By speaking at this meeting, you agree to be recorded and having that recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at meetings, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cowra Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Do we have any apologies? We have one from the Mayor and Councillor Kiss, who is ill. We need someone to move and accept. Councillor Smith and Elbow. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All right, carried. Any councillors who have an interest in any of tonight's matters? Would you and staff indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare, what report item you are declaring an interest in, whether the interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary, and what is the nature of the interest? Councillor Watt. Okay, we'll move on. We have no presentations and there's no one here for the public forum. So if we could have confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of December 2023. Do I have someone that would like to move that we accept that? Sorry? What's the amendment? Yes. The confidential. No, that's the one. Right. Okay, thank you. Okay, 3.1, section 3(5) committee draft minutes, the CBD committee. A mover. Thank you. Councillor Delbo, would you like to speak on that?
Yes, just briefly, the CBD committee have the CBD committee have commenced 2024 already with a meeting on the 16th of January. It was a very positive meeting. We did some workshop planning, which you can see in the meeting notes. Since our meeting, we have had one change to the date of the workshop. We've pushed it back a week. There are a few reasons why we did that. The new date is Saturday, the 2nd of March. It appears that the Taylor Swift effect around the globe is going to be affecting Cowra, and a large proportion of our committee are off to see the Taylor Swift concerts. There's also retail fairs happening that there's also another portion of the area that we're trying to work within are going down to these retail fairs. With the additional week, it's also helping with the promotion of the lead-in time. So I'll leave it at that, and thanks.
Councillor Downing, would you?
Nothing much more to add to that, but we've had great positive feedback from anyone that we've told about this. And just like to let the community know to register because we need people in the room to have the discussion on the day.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment?
I have a question. The workshop, is that, we've been, councillors have been invited to it. Is that the same one that everyone else will be going to, or we got some? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, just if I may, yeah, it's good to see you there up and going, and Paul sent out from Pony today the breakdown of the spending, and one was that online spending has gone up 9.4% or something in the quarter from the previous quarter. So I did mention that last time, but that's probably one area that needs to be strengthened and encourage the local retailers to develop an online presence. What come out of that bit of reading? Thank you.
Anybody else? Right a reply.
Yep, just add the Village Wells will be meeting with the CBD committee prior to the workshop. But the workshop generally on the 2nd of March is for any person to attend, business owners, shoppers, target groups, community groups, our villagers. So yeah, it's a general invitation for the community. We have put aside up to 140 tickets, and the media has actually started today and will continue this week. And by the end of tonight, you'll actually have an invite in your inbox from me. Thank you.
Hey, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. 4.1, the Sculpture Park Master Plan. Delbo, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Through the chair. The Sculpture Park commenced from my recollection and research in August 2016. And then in November 2019, we accepted 6 sculptures from Macquarie University that enhanced the 4 sculptures that we had from the Japanese gardens. In 2020, we engaged Sally Byrne Landscapes as a consultant to come up with the plan, and that's part of her work is included in this master plan. Blue Between by Philip King landed with us in 2021, and that is on loan, long-term loan from the Sydney Opera House, and that's an amazing scoop for our community to get that. So we have a total of 11 sculptures already in the area. In 2024, we get the chance to adopt the master plan, concentrating on expansion and accessibility, and I'm sure there's people here tonight who will speak at length about those 2 areas. This site goes hand in glove with the unique offering of the Peace Precinct for Cowra and internationally. We have recently had in front of us the overall management plan for the Peace Precinct. Try and say that fast. This area is basically a vital piece of Cowra's canvas within our history. The proposed pathways and the attraction of further sculptures will enhance Cowra's cultural placemaking, and in addition to adding to the tourism experience in Cowra. I look forward to seeing how this site will increase in patronage, appreciation of the arts and the natural environment, and tying into the Peace Precinct offering that surrounds it, including the Japanese gardens. And lastly, I'd like to just add that it is free. access to this site is free. In the current cost of living climate that we're in, to have free activities for families and members and visitors to our shire to enjoy is paramount. Tonight we have a 3-part recommendation in front of us for this to go out on, for us to endorse this and to move forward with it, and to consider using, with permission, the Public Spaces Legacy Program, which was an underspend of 200,000, and I think it's the right step forward for the sculpture park. Thank you.
Councillor Downing.
Just to add to what Councillor Delbo has said, that we are endorsing the application to lodge a submission. This will be grant funded, and it'll construct pathways which will actually help with accessibility for this for locals and visitors alike. And then reports will be brought back to council on the financial analysis and the framework around the sculpture park. So I agree with those.
Anybody else? Councillor Watt.
Thank you. Do I call you acting mayor? Master acting mayor? I'm not sure. I know, but he's in the chair. I just love calling Ruth Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. I also endorse this, and I think it's a very useful way to spend the remainder of this grant funding if the state government agrees. It's very important to this council and to myself that all of our spaces in Cowra are accessible, and it's very important that we make sure that this space, as part of the Peace Precinct, which is quite accessible itself, continues to be available to everyone who comes by. And I also just wanted to make a note and thank Dirk and his team for upping their mowing over the summer. It's looking fantastic at the moment, and I think anyone who's visited the Peace Precinct over the last couple of months really notices how much you notice the sculptures now that you can see through it. And I think particularly the many people who walk their dogs or spend their weekends walking around there have appreciated it. So thank you, Dirk, and your team.
Councillor West.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one. Could we, with our council agendas, could we have a copy attached of the master plan, please? I think it would have been preferable, actually, the chance to have read it. We also need to be, I think, mindful of this particular part of the council open spaces, which was the John Moon Rotary Arboretum. So we need to just make sure we continue to pay some sort of acknowledgement of those who've gone before us and took a lot of time to develop that particular area. And there's a lot of history in the establishment of this sculpture park, which I won't go into now, but it's a continuation of the Peace Precinct, which council started on some years ago. So it's pleasing to see this council continuing with that notion of the Peace Precinct.
Thank you, Councillor West. I'd just like to comment that, yes, it was John Moon. The trees up there every day in summer, he went and watered the trees, went for the Arboretum. So it was a lot of effort by him on that part. We did have it on public exhibition. There were no submissions. So all those in favour? Right, a reply. Sorry, Councillor Delver. Not reply. Now, all those in favour? Okay, investments. Someone like to move that the investments be accepted? Councillor Watt and Councillor Smith. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Did I get that well? Master Deputy Mayor. No, because we only address women differently. So I am happy to move that we note the investments and financial report for January 2024. We continue to be in a good financial position with a number of investments set aside and with a reasonable investment rate for our loans that we are paying off. But as with everyone, fighting the banks and paying them more money than we would like to on that side, but on the other side, making some money for our investments. Particularly, I would like to note that we are travelling above our previous 4 years average for the payment of the rate collection. which is a positive sign and looking to meeting our goal of having less than 10% of rates outstanding by the end of financial year, and overall looking to be in a good position.
Councillor Smith? Right of reply. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 5.1, the Cowra Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy 2023 to 32. Can I have a mover? That. Aaron Watt, thank you. Sharon Galvo. Councillor Watt?
Thank you. I'm very excited that after much work, I can move this strategy tonight to go on public exhibition. This strategy outlines, with its fantastic title, Waste and Resource Recovery Strategy, to make sure that we all practice our pronunciation. This strategy seeks to identify challenges and opportunities in waste services and to continuously improve waste management in our shire, the purpose of which is to reduce our impact on the environment and to continue to stand as a leader in our community on our care for the environment and our emissions reductions. Under the New South Wales Waste and Sustainable Materials Strategy, food and organic waste collection is required for all New South Wales households by 2030, and food waste from targeted businesses such as supermarkets and hospitality is required to be collected by 2025, which is not very far away. In particular, this strategy seeks to reduce the contamination rates in our yellow bin recycling, continue to expand on the problem waste recovery, provide for bulky waste needs for our community, and set up the MRF for the future. The strategy also articulates our plan to work to improve waste disposal and recycling options in streetscapes and villages, as well as how Council will continue to play a role in education around reduce, reuse and recycle, as has been ongoing with Anthony and his team at the MRF through their education with school children for a long time, as well as the recent launch of the MRF app. The need for a new way to deal with our food and organics waste is a key focus of this strategy. We regularly hear our constituents asking for this, and we know that it has a substantial impact on emissions. And through our bin audits that we've conducted over the past few years, we can see that it forms a majority of waste in our red bins. By diverting FOGO from landfill, we can turn this into useful items such as mulch and reduce our impact and bottom line for council as well. Sounds pretty good to me. Our MRF team with the infrastructure and operations management have done a fantastic job in leading the pack in this area for our surrounding councils, as well as bringing this strategy forward to us to adopt today and to circulate to our community. I encourage everyone to review the strategy and provide feedback in the next month. If you're not so interested in reading a long document that we have put together, at least download the MRF app and find out what you can recycle through the MRF right now, because I'm sure it's more than you think you could, and take part like we are in the community to reduce our waste, reduce our impact on the environment, and hopefully keep the world looking as beautiful as it is for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Delbo.
Thank you. Through the chair, I really have enjoyed reading this strategy and the report. I am quite passionate about the environment, and my parents would be quite happy that I'm finally going to be using a bit of my degree. First and foremost, obviously, local government's motto in the past has always been roads, rates and rubbish, and tonight we get to talk about the crucial rubbish. We now have some fancy words, as already mentioned here, waste and resource recovery, but at the end of the day, whether you call it waste or rubbish, it really is the same thing. Waste management is going to play a significant role on the way we as human beings handle climate change. The New South Wales Waste and Sustainable Materials Strategy has set some very heavy goals for local government across New South Wales to achieve. So we are 1 year off having 30% plastic litter reduction. We are 6 years off having 60% overall litter reduction. tripling plastic recycling rates by 2030, and net zero emissions of organics to landfill. And we all have a part to play in that. And obviously, the emphasis is going to be on local government to deliver this across New South Wales. I've always said that Cowra local government area could be a leader in this space. Waste management could be a great employer for our shire. I'm glad to see we have analysed our site and found solutions to how we can use this parcel of land better, environmentally, financially, and strategically. To tackle any impact we have on our planet, then consumption must be at the top of the list. We are consuming more products and things at a higher rate than the world has ever seen. The solution to this is education and changing our behaviours. To help this along, we need to be asking or demanding, how can this product be recycled when I no longer have a use for it? And how can I recycle it correctly? Locally, Cowra LGA, or local government area, we must do better in educating ourselves how to how to recycle correctly. The yellow bins we have, 48% contamination rate. And this is with the Mirth app that is fantastic that we have for all our residents to use. It is time to call this behaviour out, and we can do better. By recycling 1 tonne of PET products, we have 1.2 kilogram to the tonne of carbon dioxide not in our air. Now, that might not sound significant, but if you multiply that by Cowra's population or the world's population and see how beneficial to be for the environment, and to break that down into general layman's terms, we will continue to have clean air to breathe. We will have clear skies that are not filled with smog. Our winters will not be freezing, and we won't have extreme heat in our summer periods. We then have extreme weather in which our area personally experienced that in 2022 by flooding, and then in 2023 by fire. So it's on our doorstep as we speak. The strategy covers a list the strategy covers a lot of ground, and Councillor Watt has listed a few of those items tonight. They include promotion and recycling, education, zero contamination, and the proposal of waste vouchers, 2 bulky good collection days, identifying new markets for current waste, upgrading our processing plants, auditing our bins. Now, I don't know who'd want a job to look at what's in a bin, but it's very important to look at products that are being used and how we are recycling those, or what we're doing once we've finished using them. And of course, our business and commercial needs. In our community strategic plan, our Cowra community strategic plan, we state our aim is to position Cowra Shire as a centre of environmental excellence. This strategy is a leap in that direction. I wish to express my thanks to the staff for working dutifully on this plan and having it in front of us tonight. It has my strongest of support, and if we do nothing to address waste management, then the rising seas will find us, and I support this recommendation going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I have a couple of comments and a suggestion. I'd just like to also add my thanks to the Director for the extra information about recycling rates and comparisons, wider comparisons that he sent out to us. It shows me that we're not all that far off the mark, but it also shows me that we need to do a lot better, and so do a lot of other people. I'll start with a question, and it relates to page 38, which is the second page of this report. The second dot point, which says that the New South Wales Government strategy requires a separate collection of food and garden organics from all New South Wales households. Would I be right in presuming that that means all New South Wales households that have a waste collection service? Because if not, we're in trouble.
Excuse me, through the chair, yes, you'd be right. It's the serviced properties.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and I've got a sad addition to your list on page 43 of agricultural plastic waste. My husband and I have been trying for 2 years to get a water tank, farm water tank, repaired with a big leak down the bottom, have been unable to do so, and eventually bought a new tank. That old tank, that enormous old tank, is not recyclable. And we've had to cut it up into little bits, and it's going to have to be taken to the tip, which really shocked me. I think there are so many good things in here, so many positive things, and I think we need to try and be positive, not negative. I understand where Councillor Delbo is coming from, and I fully agree with all that she said, but I think it has been shown in the past that positive messages rather than doom and gloom that may make people think, well, what's the point of doing anything? It's too little too late. Positive messages are the go. I think we've got terrific things there that people have been asking for, like the waste vouchers and the bulky goods collection and all that sort of thing that I think are going to help us in our endeavours. Can I suggest when we put this on public exhibition that we do a targeted advertising campaign for the waste strategy that I think a lot of people are obviously not going to read through everything here, but there are lots of the visual equivalent of sound bites that will grab people's attention. You know, what can you recycle, what can't you recycle, all that sort of thing. So I suggest that we have a targeted campaign and that it be focused around the Murph app, because while we've got a take up of around 400, I think, that's quite a small amount really, given that I know that there are a lot of people like me who've got it, who look at it occasionally, but don't actually need to use it because I'm outside the waste collection centre. So I think we need to be spruiking the positives of using that and making sure that it's all updated in real time, and that we need to talk about some of the new things that we can do at the Murph, like recycling the polystyrene and the blister packs, which I didn't know that we could. I knew that one of the pharmacies is taking blister packs, but you know, I think we're doing so many great things out at the Murph, and we're a bit cutting edge, I hope. So I think we need to make sure that all the people who are as dumb as me know that they're available. Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Can someone remind me what soft plastic is again? Is that just the thin plastic wrapping, is it?
Do it.
Through the chair, yeah, that's the best explanation you have, like the cling wrap type products.
Thank you. You just said that, it says here that the soft plastic as a current industry demand is low, and council will continue delays with soft plastic recyclers, for example. But I think that's what highlights this whole strategy, is that, and the first comment I'll make, I've always been told that our biggest headache now is compliance. And this strategy comes out of complying with state government protocols for waste management and what they think should be done, and pass it on down to us to implement a strategy that meets their guidelines. But they've got no recognition of how much it's going to cost and what do we do with the stuff. As here, it's hard to find an outlet for this soft plastic. And when we do collect it in with normal plastics, it can get wrapped up in machinery and causes problems there. I've read now where one of the drink companies has changed their bottle tops to clear because when they had a coloured top on them, that couldn't be recycled with the clear plastic bottles. And I knew that was a problem with when we collected glass bottles. We had to keep them separate, but now we just collect them all together, and that 10-cent thing is very good, but they just pile them all together then, and it's broken. You can't use the bottle again to fill it, which used to happen when we had drink factories locally. So we got to devise a plan that caters for all that, and then the 10-cent earn and return, we got to put them into the bin separately for the glass separate to the other products, and they commingle them again and send them to a MRF like ours to be separated again. So that would help us a lot if those companies collecting them from the depots could deliver them separate. It'd be one less headache for us. And I hope that we can put a strategy in place. And as Councillor Smith said, we've got to be positive and not negative about it and telling people they've got to do better, because whatever they do, they just are going to end up with plastic and cardboard and so forth, because the amount of food that comes in from overseas now, we've got no control on what it's done over there, and we've got here to clean up the mess. It's just when they sacrifice local industries to produce food and so forth and put it on the shelves, and perhaps it's not wrapped and processed for so long that we get more waste. And I just hope that we can put a strategy that's not going to break the bank, and it provides an enthusiasm for people to try and do better. I think they all are trying to do better, but then they scratch their head with what's going on. As we go out to the MRF and see the pile of PET bottles piled up and so forth, whatever happens. But I put it forward, and I hope that we can implement it.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Anybody else? Right, a reply, Councillor Watt. Councillor, is that a light? I thought it was your nose, sorry. Nothing? No. I'm happy to rescind my offer of
Thank you,
Councillor
sorry.
Watt and put it to you,
Thank
Mr
you.
West. Councillor
Just
West.
very briefly, happy to see this go to public exhibition. I think there's so much innovation going to be needed in this space in years to come around recycling, not just for MRFs like ours, but across the broader landscape around batteries and a whole range of issues as we move into modern technology. That's not a reason to do nothing. I think that's a reason to move forward and to encourage people to start to be innovative. There'll be failures, there'll be issues to overcome. But I think the bottom line to me in this whole thing is, let's not be too excited about saving the environment, as important as it is. But let's be excited about taking our community with us. And the success of this will depend on whether we can actually successfully engage our community to come on board and to understand what we're trying to do in terms of just minimising waste and helping them to reduce their waste, and that will benefit us as a community. So the real key in this is not what we think about the environment, but how we can actually make sure we take our community with us, and understand what we are trying to achieve. And I think Councillor Smith might have made the comment that the local MRF has been ahead of its time for many, many years, particularly in its establishment. And there's no reason why we can't continue to do that. But it's going to take us to advocate and create that willingness and understanding within our community.
Right, a reply, Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to start in my right of reply that reading this strategy and in the conversations we've had over the last 6 months, both in this room and separately working with the infrastructure and operations team, and when I went with a few of those teams to the waste conference in Wagga, this strategy isn't about compliance. Undoubtedly, there's an element in here that says we have to meet X, Y, and Z goals set out by the state government. But what we are doing in adopting this strategy is saying that we want to be a leader in this space in the same way as my colleague Councillor West articulated the MRF has done for many years. we have already in our CSP a commitment to become a centre for the circular economy. We've already taken big steps in that in choosing to build our space for the container deposit scheme management, which while it is an issue I wish we didn't have, that we didn't have to process that amount of plastic, it is an income provider for our community. It supports us in being able to make sure that the MRF is capable of taking on new items like blister packs or innovating in different areas or providing education to our kids and our community about recycling. We've chosen to make these decisions as a council as a way for us to identify that the circular economy and waste management is a growing industry going forward, and us investing in that and choosing to be at the forefront will be of benefit to our community in terms of making sure that we're providing them with the environment continuing in the future that we have now, that we are bringing money into our budget that we know is quite limited, and that they have access locally to services that people might only be able to find in bigger centres. As you know, a number of our surrounding councils bring waste to us because they don't have the capacity to process it itself, which is of course at cost to their community, that isn't at cost to our community. To dig in a little bit more, there's obviously a cost challenge in this, and I think we've talked about here before. There is a challenge that the state government is pushing the implementation of this at the local government level without perhaps funding around it. The EPA keep kind of talking about funding coming eventually. That seems to still be a little bit of a way off, but there is a grant opening for transition to FOGO again in March, I think, this year, and there's been one every year for the last couple of years to take on some of the cost of that. But when we look at it, as has been broken down by the team here, FOGO currently makes up between 45 and 55% of our red bins. So over time, the idea is that you will transition to using less red bin, less cost in processing landfill, less need to pick up your red bins less frequently, and that overall we start to transition out a little bit in that, as well as the fact that we can either process the FOGO ourselves or we can on-sell it to someone who processes it to then be used for something like mulch. A number of councils process their FOGO and put that mulch on their gardens and things like that, which is obviously another cost to our bottom line that we can take out in that way. I think as is articulated here in this strategy, and hopefully we keep going forward, to me this strategy is about thinking in those creative ways to say, how can we use the resources we have now, both to be a leader for our community and work with our community to understand the changing situations, and how can we work within it to get the best outcome, both on a social and an economic perspective for our community. Recycling is confusing. I think you all know I care a lot about this, and it's still confusing what goes where and what you can and can't recycle. And I think part of that is that it changes a lot. I'm not sure about others in the room, but when I was at school, we got all the bin. I remember when we got the different coloured bins and we got our little brochures and we had all these pictures and we had to remember where our stuff went each day at school. And it was about that, okay, well, does this type of plastic go here, or can that go in that bin? And times change. At my son's school, preschool now, they have a guideline not to bring anything that's covered in any kind of plastic or casing. So they're looking to reduce waste even further. And that's just in the space of my lifetime that things have changed in that way. So I think it's perfectly fair that we should approach it all as not presuming that everyone knows what goes in each bin. I've certainly checked from time to time in my MRF app what I can put in a bin. And I think that's fair that we accept that it's good to learn and it's good to share what you can recycle with. And it's also good to have conversations because people will come up with different ways to determine what they can and can't recycle. All mould over in Orange, processed medical waste, they're putting that into making school chairs and things like that. There's a lot of creative spaces in here that I think is really exciting for us to step forward, and we've shown through the CDS that we can do. Again, I feel like we've got the strong support of council here, and as we've said, we've talked about this quite a bit over the last couple of months, and our team have been quite invested in making sure they've got all the pieces here to make sure they can get the best outcome. And We've got in the strategy here to make a master plan for the MRF to make sure it's future proofed going forward. There are some suggestions in here of things to do in the short term to get there, but we're conscious to make sure we're setting it up for the future. And we are one of the few places I talk to that aren't having a problem of their landfill having a very close expiry date. We've made a lot of steps over the last probably 20 years or so to make sure that's not the situation that we're in, but we adopt a higher standard that that's not enough. We want to make sure the decisions that we make today as council mean that someone who's in the council room in 20 years can say that council made these decisions, which mean that we're set up for the future. And I hope that this strategy can do that.
Thank you, Councillor Watt, for that passionate reply. Can we now have all those in favour? 5.2, Cowra Material Recycling Facility proposal to extend the sorting line storage area. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Wright. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and I'll actually turn my mic on this time. This is also something that we have discussed quite a bit. I think, and I hope we are all aware that there is a need for it. I thank the director for giving us a ballpark figure of $180,000 to construct the storage area. We certainly don't want to see recyclables going to landfill because there is insufficient space to store them until the processing lines can get to them. I note it's going to be constructed of concrete and it will be graded so as to protect any neighbouring properties and so on. So I think that this is a great idea. It's not cheap, but we need to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I support this, and this is a cost of doing business, and this CDS program has been more successful than we probably thought there was, or we didn't just realise how many containers are out there, and people are finally realising that 10 cents is not a bad return on it. As I read somewhere, if you spent $2,000 on Telstra shares, in the same time bought $2,000 worth of canned beer, at the end of the year you mightn't have made any money, but you could put your empty cans back through the machine and pick up a couple of $100. So you have got a pretty good return on investment. But take away that bit of frivolous comment. If we're going to do this properly, we need a good setup out there and need a good base to work on, that machinery can pick things up clearly. We don't get them contaminated with dirt or anything. And when it does rain, the water can drain away. And this is just meeting the needs of what we're doing now, and hope we provide a bit of increased capacity for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Anybody else? Councillor Delbo.
I was looking at grant funding options today in the waste management area in general, and there is one not open yet, but to be announced, called Major Resources Recovery Infrastructure Fund. Write it down, Major Resources Recovery Infrastructure Fund. $1 to $10 million will be available for LGAs, and I am sure that we will have something out at our site that we could apply for that funding, and to obviously save ratepayers from having to foot that bill. I agree with Councillor Wright's comments that the CDS container deposit scheme has been very good to Cowra Shire, and that it has provided us in the past with an alternative income stream. And I look forward to seeing this space be expanded, and for the staff to be able to continue what they do really well out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Delbar. Councillor Watt.
I think you said that before I put my hand up, Deputy Mayor. Very briefly, Just wanted to note, part of the reason this decision has been made is because we if there is a point of peak usage and we need to store materials before they're delayed, it's been the assessment of the team that this is the lowest risk of pollution. It was brought to this chamber a couple of months ago, concern from the community around contamination in our recycling, and that there had been times when we had needed to dump an entire load of recycling into landfill. And part of that problem was the lack of storage and the difficulties for our staff in going through contaminated bin, particularly even if there isn't space. So I'd just like to highlight that this proposal also is a key part of addressing that, and a smart decision from our team into making sure that when we do need to store things, it's done in the safest way possible for our staff and for our community.
Thank you. No one else? I'll put the motion. All those in right of reply? No, thank you. Thank you very much. That there's no. We will now put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Carried. Okay, DA 6.1. This is the DA and 506 Binney Creek Road. Seconder? Okay, yes, Judy Smith. Councillor West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I'm happy to wait for a right reply if it's needed, but this ticks the boxes. It's appropriate, it's permissible in this area. The information we require is there, it's been provided. There is absolutely no reason not to support this recommendation in full, as far as I can see in my reading of the report.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and I agree with Councillor West. I'd just like to add my thanks to the Director for her reply to a couple of questions that councillors had this morning, and that settled my mind. So these are being built on spec, and with the intention, presumably, of renting them out. Should there be any need for any further consideration in terms of what's going to happen there, I'm sure it'll come back to council in the form of a DA. Thank you.
Anybody else like to comment? Councillor Delbo.
Thank you. We have this development application in front of us tonight due to it having a request of a variation. The variation being around being serviced by reticulated water and sewer. Due to the location of the sheds, that is not feasible, and as a result they have provided a further suggestion that meets the permissible use. It's a fairly good shed, I've got to say. It's just under 500 metres squared. I wish I had that shed. I could feel it. So yeah, it's both sheds. They're a large size, with a development value of over 300,000. As previously been said, going forward, depending on what happens in that space, if the consent is not permissible, then it is required to come back to council for determination, and I look forward to seeing what the site brings. Thank you.
And what Councillor Downing?
Yep, I'm going to agree with this recommendation as well. I think it is well known around town the need for industrial spaces, and I think that fills that need, and I was also happy that it's going to come back to us for any alternate uses later on.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you. The actual DA itself, I cannot see any reason not to approve it. I just find it difficult to believe that sort of is this going to be the beginning of a bigger subdivision, and he just got his foot in the door, and if we do something now, it might hinder what might happen later on. But when you read the statement of environmental effects and so forth, he mentioned that the land on Glen Logan Road wasn't appropriate because it didn't have water and sewage connected or something, because council hasn't done that. Well, they most likely would have done if someone had bought it and wanted to do something with it. Then he mentions the Collis, this is going to be similar to the Collis subdivision in West Cowra, which I can't see any resemblance at all, because that is in individual lots that either someone builds on and rents, and or someone buys and owns it themselves. And it's in a constrained area. It's in an area, and it's all similar, where he's going into a farming area, building these two big sheds for industrial use, but doesn't suggest what it may be. And I just wonder if there is enough electricity there. If a business goes in there and wants more electricity, who makes the decision to upgrade it? Or it's going to be like the Cranky Rock subdivisions for rural land, when all the houses were being built and the power was connected, the existing farmers didn't have enough power to run their wool press. And also whether there will be enough water there for industrial use, and what size sewage systems they got to put in to handle it. It just baffles me that someone had built two big sheds out there on the edge of town that's not in a designated area, and what their future intentions are. I did get clarification today that the new road connection to Benny Creek will not will not be a safety issue with the existing entrance further back, where it's a roadway that's not formed, but it does go through to the Canoundra Road. And I thought if we ever had to develop that for something, we'd have two driveways too close. And it also concerns me a bit that it is quite steep land that is going on, and now the driveway will be built to get onto the Benny Creek Road, and what cut and fill they have to do to get a level site. But according to the report, everything's A-OK, so that's all I can go on. I shouldn't think any further.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Anybody else want to have a comment? Okay, I'll put it to the right of reply, Councillor West.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of points, just in terms of the future. We obviously can't comment on what might happen in the future anywhere, so we shouldn't be speculating or allowing that to cloud our minds. The only comment on the future I would make is that as this council or a council goes forward, there would need to be some, I think, thinking around land use adjacent to our town and our village in terms of the planning for where we might want industrial, residential and the like to be situated, so that we don't create too much land use conflict if we can avoid it. This doesn't do that, but it's just a comment going forward. This is appropriate. It's in agricultural land, for want of a better definition, where this sort of development is permissible. In terms of a couple of big sheds for industrial use, again, it's permissible. And I think it's somewhat exciting that someone is investing and trying to drive some industry and business in Cowra. So I think there's every reason to support it, and what the future may bring will have to come back through various instruments which will govern whatever decision people want to make in the future as they go forward. So I strongly recommend it, colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. I'll put the motion to the meeting. It's a DA. Passed unanimously, thank you. Which one's Councillor? What's the next? One on, one out. Right. 6.2, the development on welcome back. 6.2, the development application 57/2020, lot 2 DP 557714, lot 1 DP 1201417. There's another few more lots there. I won't go through them. 2 to 4 Kite Street. continued use of and proposed upgrades to landscaping material supply lodged by Buzzery Proprietary Limited. Can I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor West. Seconder, Councillor Wright. Councillor West.
Very briefly, happy to again sort of refer back to write a reply, but this has been on the agenda for quite some time, and it has been a complex and difficult matter to get to this particular point. And because it involves, as the report will indicate, it involves a number of other agencies who have significant input into the development. And at one stage, it looked like it was going to be very, very difficult to get to this point. And I've got to say to our staff, and we get criticised as a council regularly, but to our staff and those who are supporting our staff, they've done an outstanding job to get this to this particular point, and also acknowledge the owner of the business and the work that they've done. And their perseverance to fulfil what has been their ambition and dream to remain in this particular place, which has been the area for this particular business for many, many years. So to get to this point, it's a wonderful result. It's council supporting a business in Cowra. It's a result of staff hard work, a result of a commitment by the existing business to maintain his presence in this shire. So I would strongly recommend it to you, but I do suggest to you that there is a lot of history here which may or may not be apparent in the report unless you read them very, very carefully.
Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you. As Councillor West said, it's been an ongoing issue for many years. It was mentioned that 1970 it could have been done there, but there could have been a similar sort of operations before that date. And it has, I know you can't use history to talk in the past, and we can't talk into the future. We just talk about what's here at the moment. But the site had washed and cleaned river gravel and so forth for many years, and sand, and they've made a lot of cement that's gone into buildings, even the new traffic bridge across the Lachlan and the walls of the plaza, and many others. But that doesn't mean it can keep on going regardless. And I'm very happy that they have submitted this, and it will hopefully meet all the conditions possible, because I think they are committed to. They want to be. The business wants to be working above the guidelines mentioned, and they want to keep their operation going. People say that you could pack up and leave, but it's not always as easy to go and find another site and develop something on there, because there's going to be a lot of regulations with that, and they've just got to tidy up what they've got now, and they've been using that railway area for a long time and never been, and paying some rent on it, but it's not until someone makes a statement that it gets a bit difficult. But I thank staff and I thank the applicant for continuing on to try and find a solution to the problems there. Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I have a question really, and it's with regard to condition 30, which is on page 147, which says that the applicant can't continue to occupy or use the landscaping supplies business until they receive a whole or partial occupation certificate. I would have thought that if this is passed at the council meeting, that there's quite a period before the occupation certificate could be issued. I don't know about a partial one, but I'm thinking of they need the written agreement to use council land, they need to remediate the Transport for New South Wales land, vegetate the riparian corridor, they need stormwater infrastructure, car park, that sort of thing. So my first question really is perhaps through you to the director, Mr. Chair. what's the situation with that whole or partial occupation certificate?
Through the chair, the requirement for a whole or partial occupation certificate is a standard legislative requirement. They can potentially at this point in time, if consent is granted, given that there's a continued operation, they could apply for a partial occupation certificate and we could issue that. We're not in a position to issue a final one until all of the conditions are complete. But as far as the partial goes, as long as there are no vital life safety issues on site, council would be in a position to issue that.
Okay, thank you. If I may, Mr. Chair, a question about the council land that we're proposing here to grant them access to, as they've had for a long time. Are we proposing to charge them any rent for this, or are we giving them free access?
Through the chair, I'd have to take that on notice and provide you a response.
Thank you. And
I believe it is a very tiny piece of land, isn't it? Yeah.
but quite right.
Strategic.
And yes, and I'm not suggesting that we charge them rent. I'm just asking the question because it wasn't clear to me here. And I guess my third question is about the truck wash area that where the contaminated water goes into a special holding cell, which they're then proposing to reuse on the land and to pump out if need be, and to apply various things to aid flocking and all that sort of thing. We are satisfied that none of that contaminated water will get to the river from any of those extra uses, or the cell being contaminated in an event, a rain event.
Through the chair, that information has all been provided to the EPA. They would be the licensing body for that. And if there is any overflows, say, into the Lachlan River, they would be the investigative and regulatory authority with that. However, council is currently satisfied that there's enough measures on site to prevent that from occurring.
Okay. Councillor Delbo.
Thank you, through the chair. This report is in front of us tonight at council as it involves council land as part of the development application, in addition to New South Wales government land. It is also obviously in a very strategic location, being placed parallel to the Lachlan River, a watercourse. In regards to the remuneration of using or having access to council land, in the conditions of consent number 15 mentions, or states I should say, that the applicant shall obtain the written agreement and any associated permits, leases or purchases required from Cowra Council for the use of Lot 1 and Lot 10. The size of Lot 1 and Lot 10 are just shy of 3,000 metres squared, which, if we take the last report, is 5 to 6 massive sheds. So it is a large portion of land, I think, that we need to consider charging for the use of. And furthermore, I am not aware of the background history of this, but if they have been operating in this site since 1970s, I'm not aware of what the payment has been made to council to use our area, and whether that is something we can be looking at, or is this DA is basically from the date that it is approved. So that's something for me to something for us to consider. The other reason, it's good to see there are 34 conditions of consent listed in that, and as I've stated, not only does it have consents here by Cowra Council, but it also covers 2 government organisations, that being Transport for New South Wales and New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment, the DPE. Of that, in the conditions of consent, my understanding is number 7 to number 11 deals with the requirements that Transport for New South Wales have asked council to include, and the DPE is controlled under a thing called the Controlled Activity under the Water Management Act of 2000, and that is covered from point 1 to 5. I'm glad that there are multiple government agencies involved in this application, as it would strengthen the outcome for this site that is in a significant place within our community. I look forward to continual working with the owners of this site and knowing that they are doing their best to modify their site to ensure environmental risks are minimised. And on my final point, council went out to the neighbours in the district for comments, and it is noted that we received no submissions from that. Thank you.
Councillor Watt?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Councillor J. Smith for raising the question about item 30. Reading through condition 31 to 34, all of those items are articulated here as needing to be completed prior to the provision of an occupation certificate, which would mean, in my reading, that we would not be able to give them an occupation certificate or a partial occupation certificate without those being completed. So to clarify, each of those says prior to the issue of any occupation certificate, not a complete or not a whole occupation certificate. Could we please have clarification as to whether, when we adopt this DA, the applicant will then be in breach for the period before they meet conditions 31 through to 34?
Through the chair, I'll provide you with a more detailed response on that.
Anybody else like to have a comment? Councillor West, write a reply.
I think unnecessary, Mr. Chairman. This is a good result for something that's been in the ether for probably far too long, and this was putting some sort of finality to it, and I'm just sitting here thinking whether that site was used for this sort of business from 1970 or before. I think that Councillor Wright might be able to help me with that one a bit later on. There's been that sort of activity down there for many years. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put the motion at the DA, councillors. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. 6.2, development application number 70/2023, lot 74, DP 752948, 77 to 81 Grenfell Road, a 9-lot community title subdivision. There is a correction to be made on that I'll ask the director to explain. They are not Torrens title blocks, they are community.
Yep.
Thank you.
Through the chair, there is an error within the actual description of the proposal, where it states that multiple landowners holding Torrens title that allow them to share a particular area. It should actually say holding community title instead.
Okay, can I have a mover? Thank Councillor West and Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor West.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I'm quite happy to hear what my colleagues have to say about this.
Councillor Wright.
Yes, bit of a trendy trend. Yeah, can you have a trendy trend with community titles floating about in our application proposals? Although this community title is quite different to previous DA applications. It's on a reasonably level site. All the blocks are going to be in excess of 4,000 metres, I think. The top, what I looked at, which will be in keeping with the residences in the area. the sewerage and water is going to be connected individually to our system, from what I can gather, but each house will go through a community-owned low-pressure pumping system to get it into our system up on the Grenfell Road, and that and they have to get permission from the owner of the motel area, the next door neighbour, under condition 2 that they will agree to a right of way for this sewerage hookup to the main system near the motel. And the residents will be responsible for all the community land, which will have the retention type basin, which is being shifted from the southwest corner into the centre of the block, and also these sewer pumping systems. So we will not be, from what I can gather, we will not have an expense further down the track to maintain these systems that they're putting in. And I hope that the development does go well. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Councillor Downing.
Yep, I'm going to vote for this development. I think that we have seen another community title recently, and this one fits the bill a lot better. It's where it is, they're going to be large blocks. I also noted that it's deferred until they get that approval for the sewerage from the neighbours, which also is good. I'd just like to mention that 2 of the people who submitted a issue with this, none of them actually said they didn't want, out of the 3, none of them actually said they didn't want this development. They had issues and they've all been addressed by the developer. But 2 of them actually mentioned that they didn't have long enough to reply, which is our mailing or the length of time. So can I just ask how long it is that we give people?
Through the chair, they have 14-day standard neighbour notification period.
Yep.
Sometimes it's out of our control.
Yeah.
The Australia Post.
Okay, so
But we have, in those situations where they haven't had sufficient time, we have in the past allowed them to still make their submissions.
okay, because I was just going to say the one did comment that it was Australia Post problem, but it actually isn't an Australia Post problem if we're sending mail by regular mail, because their standard days is 5 days. So we're, as the customer, choosing to send mail that way. If we sent it priority and it's in Cowra, it wouldn't go out of Cowra, it would go straight to their mailboxes. So I'm just wondering that we can maybe make a consideration for, if we're not going to lengthen the time frame that people get, that we think about how we send the letters, if we're going to send them letters rather than emails. The costs are pretty similar. I've got a little piece of paper that I got from the post office today. So if you've got 10 in letters, you can get some discounts on priority post. And also, it's just probably, if not, we might think about what time frames we're doing them. So if the letter's being typed on a Thursday, they're not being posted till Friday, then you've got the week in that time frame. So just being aware of the time frames, just to give the people the best customer service that we can give them.
Councillor Delbo.
Thank you. Through the chair, this development application is in front of us tonight as we've received 3 submissions expressing concern from the neighbour notification process. This is the second development for residential housing that we're having in the area of Grenfell Road. I will be supporting this application tonight. I agree with Councillor Wright's comments and earlier that this area is zoned large lot residential, and as a result of that, the use of community title is more appropriate than previous reports we've had in front of us at council. The lot sizes do range from over 4,000 metres squared up to just over 5,000 metres squared. As stated, we had 3 submissions received, and I believe that their concerns, while they did not object to the development application, their concerns have been addressed in the list of conditions, which there are 30 conditions of consent. I look forward to hearing Councillor West's comments about the ducks on page 452, because I'm all for saving the ducks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Delbo. Anybody else? Councillor Smith?
Thank you. Again, it's a question regarding the proposed lot 9, the communal part, and I have a diagram up which looks to me to show that proposed lot 9 is sort of the central part where the ponding is going to be. That's correct. So there's no problem with having sewage lines going off. Presumably they're underneath where the ponding would be. Okay, thank you. And just one of the objections was to do with the fact that with the dam that they have in rain events, there's been quite a bit of water over a lot of that area and over the neighbour's property. It looks like we are planning on this central ponding to replicate the size of the original dam, although over a larger surface area but to less of a depth, I see. So could I just check that? I know we've talked about 1 in 20 rain events, 1 in 50 and 1 in 100, and it's given depths and heights and whatever. I didn't entirely understand that. So the question is, are we, I know we're sure that where there's space to put houses on each of those lots out of any danger area, but we are sure that that's going to capture what needs to be captured so that there's not water flowing onto other places, A, and B, and I know that this happens all around the place, but given that we have to fence swimming pools and all that sort of thing, I'm always a little bit concerned about places like Chardonnay Estate and this place that are adjacent to private spaces, but are quite deep, 160 millimetres. Yeah. Nonetheless, we don't have to worry about fencing that off or anything like that.
Through the chair, there's no actual requirement to fence off dams or similar ponding bodies. However, if it was, say, a swimming pool or a child's wading pool, as soon as you hit 300 millimetres in depth, they're required to be fenced off. The swimming pool fencing legislation does not cover dams or the like. And the reasoning behind that is that the water in the pools, by its nature, is a lot clearer, a lot more sparklier, a lot more attractive to younger kids. They are not enticed as much with dams and still water bodies. And with regard to the water retention, there are going to also be additional measures imposed on site when houses are developed, so that any roof water from those houses will be captured by rainwater tanks and reused on site. The basics requirements now have grown so that there are more water harvesting requirements required in those. So we're pretty satisfied that there will be less impact.
Dirk, Scott.
Yeah, through the chair, just to, we did a lot of initial work with the applicant's engineering consultant to try to come up with conditions that match the existing situation. So you take away the dam at the top of the site and you provide an equivalent storage on the site. But when the dam overflowed, the water ran down River Park Road to the causeway anyway. And if you have a look at page 486, the water from the site and the upstream catchment goes across the causeway on River Park Road, and it goes through that property, lot 21 825.093. But that's the natural fall of the land through there, and then it heads down to Cowra Road, and effectively it gets dammed up at Cowra Road. But we've worked with the application that you considered last week, which was, or at the council meeting, which was the subdivision of that Cowra Road block, so that they have to design the stormwater to go across their block and through that culvert under their new road, and so that eventually it makes its way down across Cowra Road to the agricultural property there. But so it's all part of a sort of integrated stormwater design to try to match and actually improve on what's happening at the moment for the downstream residents.
Obviously. Obviously, at the moment, it does get very wet because one of the complainants noted that a horse got bogged there the other day. So I assumed it was very wet.
One of the conditions is to have the master plan presented before occupation. Does council just look at the plan to make sure everyone that our responsibilities are covered and the owners, future owners, know what their responsibility is?
Yes, when these are submitted to council, both council and the applicant and the designing engineer has to be satisfied.
Okay, I'll put the motion to DA. Right a reply, Councillor West. Again, I keep leaving you out. I don't know why.
What have I done?
I don't know. I'm thinking.
I've got the question on the ducks to answer.
Oh, the ducks.
In some respects, the ducks will be saved because the ducks tend to cross the Grenfell Road on a regular basis. So I think the ducks safety will be enhanced. Look, there's all sorts of conversations about this DA. It's an area that council are right. I know particularly well because it's on the track leading to and from where we live. Yeah, it does get a bit wet in the bottom, but the design of this development and what's been written in the report, there's no issue around housing. There's no issue around people's safety. Drainage can be a complex issue, but it is covered in this particular report, so I see no reason to be concerned about it at all. The issue about neighbour notification is always a perennial issue in some respects. And the neighbour notification is to advise residents. It doesn't provide them with an opportunity to oppose something and have it stopped. It's a matter of them having an opportunity to raise their concerns. So I think we need to keep that in perspective. With respect, they're not entitled to keep coming back every 5 minutes to object to something. They're entitled to be put forward an objection and have that objection and concerns appropriately and properly looked at and appraised. In terms of the 10 days, that's part of the statutory requirements. Now, there may be better ways of getting information out as we go forward, and emails, of course, is one, but that wasn't necessarily available to council to have everybody's email address. So logistics are a little bit more difficult. I think we should take the director's point that if people do find they've been left a little bit short in time to respond, council is quite open to having conversations to understand what their concerns are and appraise those concerns as well. And of course, bearing in mind on many occasions that in many councils and within the state government, councils get dealt with because the DAs aren't determined in time. So we've really got this time frame both ends to be concerned about. But I think council may, as we go forward in time, I can see where most people's emails will be provided to council, which will make life much easier, but that will be a significant task, I'd imagine, the general manager looking at me. I imagine that'll be a significant task to get everybody's emails, and bear in mind, not everybody has emails, so there's going to have to be a little bit of yin and a yang on that approach. In terms of this development, it's appropriate. It's a good development in the right spot. We have housing issues. In fact, we've dealt with 3 DAs tonight where it's about, and people sort of say how the Cowra's dying, no development, nothing happening. We've had 3 DAs which are about development and about growth, about moving forward. So I think we should be going home tonight a little bit pleased that we've got 3 DAs which are indicating that there is growth and development. So with that, I would commend this to you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor West. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Can we get Councillor Watt back? Thank you. We have no late reports. No. She can hear from there, surely. Right, we have no late reports, no notice of motions. We'll go to confidential matters. The recommendation is that Council considers the confidential reports listed below in a meeting closed to the public in accordance with Section 1A/2 of the Local Government Act 1993. Confidential operations from the Director of Infrastructure, request for tender 17/2023, tree trimming and removal services within the Cowra Shire for 2023 through 2026. This matter is considered to be confidential under Section 10A/2D-1 of the Local Government Act, and the Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. Can I have someone to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Delbo. All those in favour? Thank you. We will go to... Oh, you're right.